fictitious.
I started my career in 1997 in the United States Border Patrol. It was one of the most violent times in recent Border Patrol history. I made my bones and my reputation on that border. I believe what is happening on the border today is intentional.
We have people in the United States of America that breed children in order to sell them.
Our own government is facilitating the absolute destruction of the American immigration system, and I can prove it point by point. I'm unafraid to speak the truth. This is just data-driven and experience-driven.
Point, the basic economics really matter, and they matter because not that it's bad that rich people are getting richer, it's bad that everyone else is getting poorer. And it's especially bad that young people can't afford homes. Let me just put a very precise point on this. If you want a measure of how your economy is doing, I personally favor eliminating GDP as a measure. I don't even know what that is. It's clearly not relevant. They tell me Japan has a stagnant GDP. Have you been to Tokyo? It's the single most radicalizing experience you'll ever have because it's just so nice. You lost the war? Really? Can we lose a war and wind up like this? GDP. No. I don't know what even that is. The total economic activity. Oh, no. My measure is really simple. I got a bunch of kids. Can they afford houses with full-time jobs at like 27, 28? And the answer is no way. And the answer is that 35-year-olds with really good jobs can't afford a house unless they stretch and go deep into debt. And I just think that's a total disaster. That's a complete disaster. Why? Two reasons. One, if people don't own things, they don't feel ownership of the country they're in. And the country gets super volatile because people feel like they've got nothing to lose. When you have a lawn, trust me, you're thinking long term. Second, it's really hard to have a family without a house. It is. It's like super fun to live in an apartment if, there's like a bar downstairs, you're in a cool neighborhood. I'm in East Village. It's so cool. Try to have 3 kids. You're not going to have 3 kids there. You can't. Nobody wants to raise their kids in that neighborhood. Nobody wants to raise their kids in an apartment. People do it because they have to. Nobody wants to. People want a little house, not some McMansion, just a little normal house. That is the actual American dream. And that is what is totally unattainable for young people. And so the only young people in general that you will ever meet who have houses are young people whose parents help them. And God bless their parents. That's a perfectly great thing to do for your kids. But most people's parents can't afford to do that because they're already in debt from their pointless college degree. So that is a national emergency. And I know that there are certain cable channels that are spending all this time talking about, they're about to elect a socialist in New York City, which obviously I'm opposed to it. He's not even a real socialist. He's like a trainee vax, rich kid liberal guy. Mom Donnie. He's a fake leftist, but whatever. Why do you think that's happening? One of the reasons it's happening is because normal people with normal jobs no longer believe they can win in this system and that all the money is going to the worst people. And no one even stops to ask, what the hell is going on? How did Bill Ackman get so rich? I know he went on CNBC and talked down Herbalife. Bet against companies by driving down their stock prices. That's what he's been accused of. I'm not accusing him here because he's sue me if I do. I'm just suggesting others believe that might have happened. He's already threatened to sue me for saying that. But there are plenty of people who do that. And I'm not saying even that it should be illegal. What I'm saying is that our leadership class should say something about it and should assign a moral value to it. And if you're getting rich by loaning money to people at incredibly high interest rates, that's something you're going to have to talk to God about. That is not good. That is not virtuous. That's disgusting. And the fact that nobody feels free to say that, nobody feels like you can just say 30% on a credit card? Why is anybody paying a credit card bill? I said to somebody recently, I feel like I'm very moderate and sensible and, well, yeah.
Welcome to Truth with J.J. Carrell. I am a big fan of Tucker Carlson because he just speaks common sense, very layman's terms. When you speak to someone and they're very academic or they think that they're so much better and they're talking to you in all this legalese and jargon and your eyes roll back in the back of your head. Tucker Carlson's not that. That's why he's so popular. That's why millions upon millions of people listen to his speeches, his podcast, because he just speaks like two dudes having a beer, two dudes going to have working out or just hanging out in their front yard as they're doing yard work and just talking to each other. And he's right. The American dream has dissipated. Honestly, just for a second, I know all the MAGA patriots. We hate this. We hate this discussion that America's changed so much that we don't recognize it. However, if you are a MAGA person, what does MAGA stand for? Make America great again. Well, if you believe in that, then you have to believe America's not great right now. So let's just cut to the chase. America is not great right now. Demographic upheaval. There are over 50 million illegal aliens in our country. White population in probably the last 25 years dropped from 87% to under 65%. Black population has stayed about stable, and yet because of the foreign nationals, Black Americans have become the third minority or second place of the demographics, third place of the demographics. They've lost their minority first status. Do we care? In America, honestly, the average American care about race and what baby is being born, what's their color. No one thinks like that. I'm talking about the artificial destruction of our demographics. We have a moral right to say, I don't want my demographics changed. I don't want an upheaval of my demographics because you flooded our country with 50 million illegal aliens, thus diminishing my stature in my country, my citizenship, my ability to speak and have ownership. You diluted it to almost nothing. Thus, we're living in a world in America now where the dream doesn't exist. The average home in California, $900,000. $900,000 for an absolute piece of garbage. I live in Kansas. Moved my family out of California. Home prices are $800,000-$900,000. Starters, 400,000, 500,000, 600,000 pieces of garbage. What the hell's going on? What happened? If you took me back in time to 1997 when I joined the Border Patrol, and you told me, listen, when you retire, your pension, your 401k, and your Social Security, this is how much you're going to make. What? I'm going to make that? I'm going to make more than I'm making working? Yeah. But the catch is, JJ, you're going to have more disposable income now than you will after 23 years in the United States Border Patrol. What? That doesn't make any sense. Yeah, because we're going to destroy the dollar. We're going to bring in foreign workers and destroy the wages. And you are going to live in an upside down financial world. That's what's happened. A small handful of men doubled their complete wealth in the tunes of almost $1 trillion between them. Probably past $1 trillion now. During COVID, that happened. At the same time, during COVID to present, everyone else became poorer. The upper, like 1/1,000,000th of 1% of the population doubled, tripled their wealth. And everyone else became poorer. Am I anti-business? Am I anti-success, or I am anti a guy that is just crushing it and making his way? Absolutely not. In fact, I look at those guys and I go, man, what is that about their business acumen? What is it about their personality that got them there? What is it? And I'd like to learn. Up early, go to bed late, just grind, all in, all the time. Hey, I got it. All in, all the time. Complete ownership of your life. Take complete ownership of everything that happens, success and failures. Got it. Check. Get educated. Learn as much as you can. Check. Pour money back into your business. Check. That's a lie. Why is that a lie? That used to not be the lie. It used to be you just did that and you became successful in America. Now forces outside of us Keep that. You can never control, no matter how much hard work you do, how much savings you do. It doesn't matter. Because we've taken the dollar and we print it out of thin air and we ship that money to foreign nations, diluting the amount of what a dollar can buy. So I need more dollars to buy the same thing. So I can't save fast enough. I can't work enough to get ahead. Here's a perfect example. Think about going to the grocery store 10 years ago. $100. Probably the whole bottom of your cart, maybe up to midway, filled. Now, you know the cart you push and it's got the place where you have your little baby sit? That's what fills up for $100. I used to believe in hard work is going to get you everything you need. But as I got older, I realized and saw the lie. I'll give you a personal example. 2006, 2008, I'm buying homes and selling them in California as a Border Patrol agent, fix them up, sell it, make some profit, go get a nicer home, move up, have a beautiful home. I'm working my butt off. I'm doing 1, 2, 3 overtimes every pay period. Like I'm doing everything that people told me. Work harder, save more. Work harder, save more, invest. I'm investing, I'm doing this, I'm doing everything. And then the federal government, through the banking system, collapses the economy. I remember sitting on a home in Southern California, beautiful home, beautiful street, one-way street, had views of the ocean, beautiful. About 20 houses on this street. At least 15 of them were in foreclosure. I saw a property value dive 50%. And I remember sitting there in my house thinking of the hundreds of thousands of dollars that I lost. And I remember sitting there thinking, but you worked hard. You saved your money. You made smart financial decisions. 2 years ago, this was a incredibly brilliant business decision to buy this property. And yet, forces way outside my control. I have zero control. Just stole all that wealth. And then took our tax dollars, gave it to the banks to make them whole, and then those banks wouldn't lend us money, wouldn't lend us our money. And they foreclosed on houses across America, and they gobbled those houses up and repackaged them and sold them for profits. We live in the most corrupt country in the world. How do you know that? Well, when they're literally a handful of men that own all the wealth, and everyone else has become poor. If you sit here and you think that this is okay, you think it's okay when you're 27 years old. I remember being 27 years old, started my career in the Border Patrol, bought my first condo. I was so proud. Look at me. I'm moving on. I'm becoming a strong, independent adult man that can provide for a wife and children when that opportunity arises. There's no 27-year-old buying homes now. Your starter home's $400,000. You need $80,000 for down payment. And then the house has mold and needs a new roof. It's a complete disarray. You're going to have children? Maybe you got a condo. Maybe you have a townhouse. Can you have children? Maybe you have one. What happens when you have 2 or 3? America. I want you to be prepared. I'm going to bring Ann Vandersteel is here, and I want to listen to everything she has to say. And I take it by looking at her X account, she's as angry and upset and frustrated as I am. But you have to be prepared. And the way you're prepared is you go to sat123.com, sat123.com/JJ, and you get your sat phone. It's less than $100 a month for a service charge, and you get the sat phone for free. a $500 to $1,500 sat phone for free. What is less than $100? Less than $100 gets you about maybe 7, 8 coffees, 10 coffees, but you're prepared. And I preach this constantly: be prepared. Be prepared, because you have no idea what this world, this life is going to throw at you, because there are no anchors anymore. There's no economic anchors. There's no societal anchors, cultural anchors. There's religious anchors. You just go down the line. They're gone. We're kind of floating as a society and as a culture, trying to grasp onto something to hold on to. That's not black pilling. That's just the truth. We are in upheaval demographically. We're in upheaval religiously, spiritually. We're in upheaval economically. Be prepared. Whatever you think you need to be prepared for, be prepared. I need connectability with my family. Therefore, I have a sat phone through Sat123. My son and my wife need to be protected. They have a ballistic backpack, so they have that. Go to sat123.com. Be prepared, /JJ. Ann Vandersteel, welcome to the show.
JJ, good to be with you. I love listening to you before we lead in.
Oh, I'm looking at your X account, as I always do every morning. You're one of my go-to spots. Are you as upset as I am? That's what your X account is. That's what I hear. Am I hearing it correctly? Are you exasperated as I am?
Yeah, I'm exasperated. So, let's just clear the air here, because a lot of people are understand the sentiment, but some people are like, I can't believe you. I met you at the Reawaken America tour. You were America first, Trump first. I was like, wait a minute. I've always been America first, and I've supported President Trump since day one. I still do. He's our best shot at saving our country at this point, as a president goes. But the fact of the matter is, and I say this every single day, I harp on it, it's we the people, and we have to tell our government what we want, what we expect. Mm-hmm. Yes, we put leaders in place, and yes, he is dealing with a hornet's nest. But here's the thing, my ire isn't directed necessarily at President Trump. The frustration, let's just go, this is a big elephant we're going to talk about today, right? But we're not going to have time to talk about it all. But if you're going to take an elephant down, it's one bite at a time. And so he put together a cabinet. We had our faith in the cabinet. We all were excited about Pam Bondi and Kash Patel and Dan Bongino. One of the very first things Pam Bondi did was talk about the Epstein files. She lobbed it out there. We weren't demanding it. We weren't asking about it. She lobbed it out there, and that she was going, was sitting on her desk, and that, we'd be getting more. And then she brought all these social media influencers in, then handed them a book, and they all took pictures, a photo op. We were all like, holy cow, that's okay. Let's rock and roll, Pam. Let's go. And then, they took it back. And then they put it out and they took it back. And like Mike Adams said today, he feels like he's playing cognitive ping pong, trying to keep up with the administration. Take it back, put it out, take it back, put it out. It's not fair to the public that worked their butts off for the last 4 years to get President Trump elected so that he could put a cabinet together and then have the cabinet, start going to war with one another. You start to do research, as he should know that all of us are doing, and we start to look into who is he actually putting in these positions that he is selecting and that the Senate has to approve, with the exception of his chief of staff, Susie Wiles, who, by the way, has got some explaining to do on some of her background and some of the, the restrictions she puts in. She's the gatekeeper. It's not a secret. And so when you start to get the anecdotal evidence of people that I know that are trying to get information of the president and are getting blocked, it's a problem. It really is a problem. And when you start to see this ping pong going back and forth, and that you've got his, when Laura Loomer has to step in and start vetting his cabinet members and picks in his cabinet, thank God she did, but that's the problem. Why isn't Sergio Gore? Oh, wait a minute. That's right. He hasn't even filled out his vetting paperwork. And then we find out he wasn't born where he said he was. He was actually born in Russia. So it's like, there's just issues all around. Does it make this President Trump bad? No. Do I still support him? Absolutely. Like I said, he's the best shot we've got. But it's as if, we had 4 years to get it together. Dan Bongino and Kash Patel have written books. They've made millions of dollars in podcasts and books. And God bless them. I wish they made tens of millions or hundreds of millions. It's not about the money. But we've had the time. The patriots have been doing the research, and everybody's been pushing their chips into the middle here. And it's like, why are we having these missteps? Yes, I know there's rot to the core that goes down, 2.5, 3 million federal employees, not all of them, but a lot are rot that need to go. I understand that. I know that Cash and Dan are leading some good people, but a lot of people that need to go. And it's hard to turn around a Titanic. But when you run out and you start to make promises like the Epstein files, which everybody knows is a big story and everybody knows it's a huge scandal. And at this point, the fact that they haven't released it only leads people to come up with their own, submissions of ideas. As I told you the other day, I think it's the donor class. I think the donor class must be on this thing, because why else they want to drag it out? So this is what the frustration is. And all I'm echoing is a sentiment of what I believe to be the base. Do people believe that, it's only been 6 months and we need to give the guy a break? Sure, I understand that. But when your cabinet's leading with things and then pulling it back and then giving it out, it's not fair to the public. We got to be better organized than that. And you had 4 years to figure it out and to get your chips and ducks in a row, knowing that the pendulum would swing the other way hard after what we saw within the first 6 months of the Biden regime, let alone 4 years of it. It was pretty obvious Trump was going to win. It's just at this point, why weren't we ready? And I think that's where the real frustration is. You know what I'm saying? I mean, we have a really, really, really corrupt government, JJ, and the people are we're ready. I think we're mobilizing and we're ready. And so that's the frustration that I echo on my X profile daily.
Well, you touched on Bongino. Let's look at him. I'm not railing against Bongino. I just have questions. Like like you, we used to watch and comment on things that Bongino said, because he was the leader, the forerunner of the podcast world. It's Joe Rogan kind of like in his kind of section. But then there was Dan Bongino for really conservative talk. He dominated Fox News. He dominated everything on just his podcast. Let's just look at this one clip, and I want your take on it. If you can play this, Thomas, it's number 6 for me. No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I apologize. It is number 5. Number 5.
Listen, that Jeffrey Epstein story is a big deal. Please do not let that story go. Keep your eye on this. Catherine Rumler, we need to keep the heat on this case, folks. There are a lot of people who are knee deep in the Washington swamp who are not telling you the truth about serious allegations out there that Epstein may have had video and audio of people out there doing things they shouldn't have been doing. And you should be asking yourself the question, how is it that all these people, the CIA director, the Obama fixer, Bill Clinton, all intersected paths with Jeffrey Epstein? Jeffrey Epstein isn't with us anymore, and nobody seems to want to talk about it, outside of a few entrepreneurial media outlets saying, hey, this is a big deal.
He killed himself. You want me to get, I've seen the whole file. He killed himself.
What's your thoughts on that? And number one, do you believe him?
Here, I don't know what to believe, to be honest, JJ. That's the point. We have been whipsawed and we've got whiplash from the back and forth. That's what I was lamenting about prior to you playing this clip. I don't know what to believe. All I know is that Laura Trump went on the Benny Johnson show and has already said that the president hears us. He's frustrated. They've watched, just like all of us, the last 4 years watch his country get ruined. And we all know that he was handed a you-know-what sandwich when he stepped in January 20th of this year. And the best thing he did was hold his promise to pardoning the J6ers. Were there some issues around there? Yeah. Are we still dealing with some J6 issues? We are. Daniel Ball has been readmitted into prison for fruit of the poisonous tree, which is ridiculous. He should not be back in there. And he's been readmitted and demanded. He was sentenced by a Trump-appointed judge. We should note that. So that's, still things like that. But again, it was a big task to get to that point, but it was the people who helped organize it. Credit to Trennis Evans and Suzanne for doing that. But I don't know what to believe at this point. And we don't know what to believe because we haven't seen anything. We saw influencers with binders that had the black book that's been out there on the internet. We've had copies of for a decade. So when you don't have, without anything shown to us, I don't know what to believe. I'll tell you this, the body language of Dan Bongino from then to now is like two different guys. I know the guy walked away from making a lot of money. He walked away from living in South Florida. He walked away from his beautiful family, his wife that he loves dearly. He's a family guy. He's made no bones about that. And now he's in a position where he doesn't have the control of the life of his life that he did. And I've got to believe, especially for an Italian man, that's got to be incredibly frustrating for any person that's frustrating. So I sympathize with him. But if he's not being honest, if he's being told to feed a narrative to the people for whatever reason, that's problematic. I'd hate to think Dan would have to go there. And if that's the case, if it's truly that's the case, he really killed himself, then what Dan should do, like any credible journalist would do, he could take off his FBI director hat and go, everybody knows I had a big podcast and it was very successful and I eclipsed Fox News in ratings. I said some things and I was wrong. And I want to just go back and correct the record. That's what he should do. If he's going to go out on Maria Bartiromo with Kash Patel and say, I saw the file, he killed himself, then he should also correct the record that, yes, I did say these things and I stand corrected. But
yeah, but
he hasn't said that.
No, but Ann, you and I have already seen, quote, the video. We've seen the autopsy reports. That's not what the autopsy report says.
I know. I know.
It's maddening. Okay, I'm gonna play another clip, the one that I erroneously told Thomas to play. But this is Benny Johnson. He's absolutely correct. But listen to he has almost Benny Johnson is a very even killed guy, right? But you can even tell he's exasperated.
Well, he has been, let me just say this. He's not only even killed, but as I likened him to, I was talking to some friends yesterday, he's had pom-poms for Trump from day one. And he's a super nice guy. I've met him. I've taken pictures with him. He's a really, really nice guy. He's super normal. It's very positive, very, very Christian, beautiful family. I mean, you don't get more, rah Trump than Benny Johnson in some aspects, in a very good, clean way. I'm not saying he's a sycophant. What I'm saying is he truly believes, right? But go ahead and play this clip because I think I know where you're going with this.
Because he's exasperated. Thomas, you play clip number 6 and just stop it at 56, Mark, please, for me.
Ladies and gentlemen, Ghislaine Maxwell is ready to testify. The way to put the dog down is take her out of her cell, put her in front of the American people, and say, what was this exactly? Since you were there and all the firsthand witnesses seem to be dying of mysterious circumstances, including but not limited to Virginia Roberts, who was just killed before this. Why do I say killed? She's the premier witness to all of Epstein's crimes. She was hit by a bus in the middle of the Australian outback, winds up in the hospital, posts that she's about to die, and then days later, she commits suicide. Come on, man. Dude, quit insulting us.
He's right. Quit insult. That's that's the end of that clip that made me go, yes. And that's the thing. I hate being lied to, but it's the insult. It's the insult that I'm so stupid that you can lie to me. It drives me insane.
Yeah.
But you could tell this, he's a major influencer, and you're right, he's a big Trump guy. But when people start to talk and they start to halt their speech, he's just from exasperation. Like he's just like, come on.
Yeah.
What the hell are we doing here? And now I hear, I don't know if you heard this, the Republicans blocked Maxwell to come speak.
Yeah. Again, why? Unless, of course, they're in the files or it's the donors. It's the donor class. Remember, most of Congress is controlled by the American-Israeli Political Action Committee, right? The AIPAC. And that's a big lobbying arm for Americans' representation of, Israel's representation here in America. So why would the Republicans be so, anti getting this out there? What is it they're so afraid of? Again, we don't have Republicans and Democrats. We have a uniparty. That has just literally been a psychological operation since the late 1800s when they reintroduced the two-party system. We left the Whigs and the Tories behind in the Revolutionary War. We wanted no part of that. We understood the division of it all. And so we came together based on ideas. And I still think, Elon Musk, I get his frustration wanting to start a third party because he sees the R&D as a uniparty. Okay, I understand the point. But why make it about party? Make it about ideas. Make it about restoring our country back to the founding fathers' principles where we can actually get a real clean government of, by, and for the people. And I get Benny's frustration because when all of a sudden you realize the team that you think you're on is the one that's blocking Ghislaine Maxwell from coming forward and presenting more information or testifying or whatever it is they want her to do, get her in front of a camera with a newspaper in today's date so we know it's legitimate. That's got to, I mean, it's got to be blowing your mind considering he has been out there cheerleading for Trump. And MAGA isn't dead. The Make America Great Again movement, I contend to you, is probably stronger than ever because of this, because we're now realizing it isn't about one man. There's only one man, JJ, that's going to come and save us. And it's not Donald Trump. It's Jesus Christ in the end. That's who it is. So we got to set that aside and go, we can't make it about Trump. We can't make it about Bondi. We can't make it about Bongino. It's got to be about what do we the people want and what are they supposed to do in response to what we want. We've got to get our voices coming together and telling them, you must give us X, whatever it is. And if once we start really harmonizing around that and stop allowing these other social media influencers from telling us, oh, you're bad if you don't support Trump. Oh, you're bad if you argue with President Trump. No, you're not bad. You're just saying, hey, I'm disagreeing with the way you're going about business. Hence the reason Laura Trump came on and said, yes, he hears you. He's frustrated. And so I think it's really very refreshing to see Benny Johnson not parrot like Charlie Kirk said yesterday. And with all due respect to Charlie, brilliant guy, but well, I was shocked to see him just sit there and fall in line. And then to see, hearing that there's a whisper campaign going on out there. Certain influencers are told, tell your audience, just trust Trump, trust the administration. What? I don't trust anybody except the Lord and Savior. I'm sorry. That's just the way it goes. And my husband. So you see where I'm going with this? This whole, you've got to just fall in line and parrot the narrative. No, absolutely not. That's the one thing we have seen the left do better than anybody. And they're doing it for evil. We're not going to sit here and do it and then find out the Republicans aren't going to let the person who's sitting in prison, rotting right now, when the other guy supposedly got murdered and all the witnesses are dying, quotes, air quotes, or being murdered. No, if she has something to say that'll help clear this up, let her speak.
Amen. I'm going to shift gears, but the way I shift gears tells you how insane we're being attacked. Like the insanity of the level and angles of attack that we're trying to. It'd be news cycle after news cycle of just what you just spoke about. Where's the law and order? Why are we being told to be quiet? Look at the influencers changing their mind. Oh, Donald Trump's changing the mind. Stay in line. Rah, rah for Donald Trump. That would be the big story. That's just one, Ann. That's just one story. We can go literally take a left turn and go to this next topic, but there's another 12, 20, 30 topics that you and I can talk about. But I want to shift gear just to show how many places the attacks are coming from. And this is chemtrails. And everyone used to say, oh, Ann Vandersteel, she's crazy. That person saying chemtrail, oh, they're crazy. It's not crazy. They're admitting it already. And I went to your X and I found these two clips. Can you play for start out, Thomas, can you play this chemtrail clip number 7 and just stop it at 53 seconds? Just watch this.
Same chemtrail. You can see this is what they're doing. And by the way, up there is another plane. Oddly, not spraying anything. Maybe Susie Wiles could help with this. She's from Florida. She's a lobbyist. She must have some sort of connections in the lobbying arm into the Department of Defense and DARPA that are behind all this. Perhaps maybe she could help us with some of her lobbyists to gently ask them, considering she made $70 million during the first Trump years as a lobbyist with a DC office. And she's now his chief of staff, continuing to sell access and be the gatekeeper.
And that is obviously your ex, and that was you speaking. Before you comment and before anybody says, well, that's a normal cloud. Isn't that how clouds, they form? Yeah, like linear. Yeah, of course, all the time. I want to show you, I'll show my audience another clip. This is unbelievable. Actually, it made me go, look, is this real? And it was off of your ex, and this is in Alpharetta, Georgia. I want our audience, it's about 20 seconds long. Just look at the sky in Alpharetta, Georgia, and tell me if Ann's crazy. Go ahead and play this one. please. Dear God, Ann, are you and I crazy conspiracy theorists, or is something going on in our skies?
No, it's definitely going on. Florida's outlawed it. Tennessee's outlawed it. I think there's a few other states that have passed outlaws. Dane Wigington speaks to my good friend Dr. Jane Ruby all the time. I need to get him on my show. He's absolutely, I consider, the world's leading expert on geoengineering, and he's told Jane on any number of occasions with true certainty, there is absolutely this is absolute genocide. And he believes, and might be shocking, this might be the first time your audience has heard this, but he believes we've passed the point of no return. That if they were to stop spraying today, that we wouldn't be able to overcome this. In other words, the dimming of the sky, what Bill Gates, that demon, has wanted for some time and has funded, has worked. We don't see the sun. I was in my exercise Pilates class this morning at 7 a.m. and the sun was peeking through a hole in this big gray cloud cover that we've had. It just sits there. It just sits. I mean, this is Florida. We don't get storms that come out of the north and come and go, south across the state like we do in the wintertime. We are having them now in July, and the lightning is unreal. It's like out of that movie with Tom Cruise, when they had the aliens that were, throwing lightning down out of the sky, and these machines came down and sucked you up. It's the most insane stuff I've ever seen. We just don't have weather like this. So my point is, we may have passed the point of no return, according to geoengineering expert Dane Wigington. Florida is littered with it. We have a bill that's signed into law. They don't care because the federal government is just ignoring it. They've got numerous titles and numerous national emergencies that they're using to do it under, and they think that supplants our constitutional law. They certainly think it overrides our state constitution, which under the 10th Amendment gives us sovereignty to be independent. And I think it's going to take, honestly, JJ, I think it's going to take the breakup of the United States if we're going to ever stand up as a free country again, as independent union states that we were prior to becoming 14th Amendment U.S. United States. We were Union of States. We were the, United States of America, but we were not incorporated into this DC regime. And we're just in the process of trying to figure out whether we're going to keep going down this path or we're going to retreat and pull back and reclaim our sovereignty. And that's the war that we're truly in. It's a battle for freedom, and it's the good evil battle. And frankly, until we get aggressive, and when I say aggressive, I mean legally and lawfully aggressive. They've already been violently aggressive to us. They've mandated those bioweapons and stuck them in, hundreds of millions of arms here in the United States and billions of arms around the world. That was their first shots, in addition to shooting at Ashley Babbitt and others in other, situations like Ruby Ridge, etc. So we're at war, JJ. That's simple. That's about all I can say about that. That's war. That's weather warfare.
No, I agree that we're at war. I agree that we're being attacked on every front. I have a sponsor called Pet Club 24/7, and it's a husband and wife team ownership. And the wife, Kristen, when you start talking about chemtrails with her, and you start talking about the poisons in your food, they have a supplement that works on your immune system. But I'm shocked every time that she goes through the litany of what's in our food and what's in our water and the metals. And she's saying they're falling from the sky. They're in our soil. They're where we grow our food, and our animals eat it. And then we kill the animals or we take our vegetables. They are filled with metals. Mm-hmm. And then they had, I forget, it was Casey Means, I think it was her, said now the amount of metals that are in your body and that are hitting your brain, sitting on your brain, can now be quantified by weight. Like we can weigh your brain and can tell you how much metals are sitting on your brain. Holy.
Fabulous.
Maybe we're out. Maybe your colleague is right. Maybe we're past the point of no return, Ann. Can you imagine if we are? You
know what, Jay, this is where you got to lean into your faith, because if you sit there and these people that are doing these globalists, these World Economic Forum, Council of Foreign Relation types, they are anti-God, anti-human. They're transhumanists. I sat and listened to an interview with Peter Thiel talking about it. They really believe this, and they fear death. They actually understand a lot of this. I mean, very rarely does one of them die before the ripe old age of 90 something. A lot of them push almost 100. It's really quite remarkable how old these people manage to live to be. And why is that? Are they eating differently? Are they getting different, medical, help versus what the lay gets out here, which is just push another pill, another radiology, another chemo treatment, don't push ivermectin, that kind of stuff. So, they don't believe there is a God, that in the sense that we do. And the God that they worship is not a God I would ever want to meet. And I'm not going in that direction. I'm working and going in this direction. And so I believe that these people do believe they need to, experiment and become transhumanism. They want to leave the human body behind and be into something else, because they know the only way to eternity is not through God. They believe it's through something else. And so, and them trying to convert all of us and exchange our DNA. It has now been proven that CRISPR-Cas9 technology has actually replaced snippets of people's DNA that took the shots. They've now replaced their human DNA with something else. I'm sorry, but you're not even human anymore. And here's the kicker. Myriad versus Genetics in the Supreme Court 9-0 ruled, that if you have control of someone's DNA, you actually own them now. They are no longer considered, human. So things in the natural that have their DNA changed, whoever was able to facilitate the change of that DNA in an overwhelming 9-0 majority, Myriad versus Genetics, go look it up. You are now considered under the control of whoever was able to change the DNA. Todd Callender brought that lawsuit. In fact, cited that case in a lawsuit in Roberts v. Austin in 2021, I think it was. I went to see him, or 22, I can't recall. Maybe it was 22 in Denver in the 10th Circuit. I watched him argue on that point. And do you know that case sat in the 10th Circuit for almost a year, and they finally they said, no, we can't come to it was a three panel bench. The judges wouldn't even rule on it. They just punted it. So, this is what we're dealing with. They recognize, wow, he has a point. He has a point. And he was basically going up to bat for the military about these shots. So this is the kind of demonic stuff we're dealing with, JJ. It's really, really, this is why I go into kind of, rage a little bit on my X profile and calling out the obvious. It's because it needs to be called out. We're dealing with some really bad, dark forces right now.
I agree with you. I don't think, and you and I've talked about this before, and I do think this is where my rage comes to, is that this is no longer a right versus left, Democrat versus Republican. This is truly a good versus evil. And if you really want to be the truth, this is God versus Satan. And if you don't think Satan is roaming, and I say he's not even roaming, he's like patrolling with his armies in America, I think that you're so disconnected from reality. Because when you look at the transgender ideology, think about what, just for that topic alone, Ann, if I told you 10 years ago, and I just met you on the beach in Florida where you live and my family lives, and we struck a conversation, and I told you, hey, Ann, you know what I really see the future? In 10 years, moms and dad are going to puberty block their children, and then they're going to rip their genitals off and turn them into something else. And everyone's going to cheerlead. They're going to be the highest level in status in the world. You would look at me as if I was demonic, wouldn't you? You would. You would have to say you would run away from me, running for your husband, saying, this guy's a mental patient. Watch out for him. Right.
Right. Yeah.
But I'm not a mental patient. This is how sick it is, Ann.
I know. It's very, very sick. And this is why, I try to, when I look at everything that's going on, and I'm saying, the American people want more answers. You guys provided information. We didn't ask for it, and you threw it out there, and then you took it back, and you threw it out there, and you took it back. That's not fair to the American people. We've all been through the washing machine. There's families that lost everything. Those J6ers were bankrupted. They lost their homes. Some of them ended up divorced. Some of them committed suicide. President Trump has been abused. Everybody has been abused. Nobody came out of the last 4 years unscathed. And so we can't make this about Trump, and you can't make it about any one of the J6ers while Tina Peters is still sitting in prison for preserving the election integrity, evidence that she received a letter from Dominion voting system saying, hey, we're going to come do a trusted build upgrade to the system, preserve your system. She followed the letter. And when she did, she was thrown in prison for doing it. It's ridiculous. So everybody has been harmed over the last 4 years. It doesn't matter who you are. Your level of harm is commensurate with where you are, maybe financially, where you are spiritually, whatever. It doesn't matter. The point of the matter is, we are all in this together. And so when we're echoing our frustrations, you shouldn't be condemned for it. We got to start looking at everything very holistically. And I know President Trump is trying to triage the patient called the Republic. I see what he's trying to do. And he's just unfortunately been steered some bad advice. And, every now and then, when you remember when you were in grammar school and you played kickball and you kind of knew who was the good kicker, who was the good catcher, and you tried to grab those people first. And then eventually went down through the class and you got stuck with, the little guy that couldn't do anything, or a little girl who was just, 2 left feet, whatever it was. Sometimes maybe you didn't realize what the bench was, and maybe you got somebody who just wasn't really ready for the task. Or maybe you got somebody because your chief of staff said, you got to put this person in as the Department of Justice. Yep. And maybe there's other reasons for that. Maybe it's pharmaceutically based. Maybe it's something else. Maybe it's APAC. I don't know, but we're going to get to the bottom of it. And the best thing that President Trump can do is to acknowledge the fact that his base that loves him and worked their butts off for the last 4 years is unhappy with where things are, mostly because of their making. Not what he said, but what people on his staff said. And the buck stops with him, and he knows it. And so I think by his recognition of this, you're going to see him start to pivot. And I'm telling you, America is very forgiving too, JJ. We're incredibly charitable. We will say, thank you, President Trump. You listened. And you know what we're going to get a lesson in when he does? This sucker right here, which tells everybody that that's how the system works. And when we get to that point and people start to really own this, guess what? People will start to jump into their civic duty back at home where they belong. Because if we sit there and complain about who's running our local communities, our towns, our counties, whatever, but we don't do anything, we're the ones to blame. So, that's my rant on that.
You keep ranting, you keep have some indignation and resentment on your X account. I love going to it. I learn as much as I can starting the day, just going to, you're one of my first stops. So Ann, thank you for your time. And we're living the most interesting times, maybe in human history right now, because this is the Great Awakening. I believe so. Keep fighting the fight, Ann. Thank you very much. Have a great day. I got all your socials up to follow Ann at Ann Vandersteel on X, AnnVandersteel.com, and her show every Saturday on Worldview Tube. Ann Vandersteel, she's the best. You want to learn, you want to be ahead of the information curve, then follow Ann Vandersteel. Chemtrails, they don't exist. Your conspiracy theory. We just passed a law that there's no more chemtrails. Okay, hold on a second. You just said we're a conspiracy theory. Now you're passing a law. What? Yeah. She's ahead of the curve. I want you to please support my sponsors of my show. Why? Because this is how we stay on. And I believe in it. Everything that I sponsor, I use. I want you to go to shopbellagrace.com/truth, shopbellagrace.com/truth. I use the elixir. Thomas, I don't know if you have that commercial with Dr. Lucky. If you have that or the one with Abby, it doesn't matter. Can you play this? This is the product and this is the company that I go to, as well as Pet Club 24/7 to increase my immune system, my immunity, and my gut. shopbellagrace.com/truth. Okay, let's play this commercial. Thank you.
Start your day with the glow that comes from within. Introducing Bella Grace Elixir, a beauty secret that nurtures your skin from the inside out. Packed with natural ingredients, Bella Grace helps collagen production, reduce fine lines, and restore your youthful glow. And the best part? Bella Grace is perfect for your busy life. Take it with you on the go wherever you go. Bella Grace Elixir. Discover the secret to timeless beauty. To get your hands on this product, go to www.shopbellagrace.com/truth.
shopbellagrace.com/truth. I use it. I use it every day. The elixir. Every day. I have in a race to increase my health. And this is one of the ways that I do it. Thomas, I want to go back, if you won't mind. I want to go all the way back to the very beginning. And I want to start with clip number 2. Because one thing that Donald Trump is doing great and is doing amazing is the economy. For the first time in a very, very long time, we have a surplus. What? The federal government has a surplus of revenue? 26 billion, going on 27 billion. Go ahead and play the clip number 2 for me, Thomas.
That the United States, for the first time in well over 20 years, we actually have a surplus. $26 billion surplus, thanks to Donald Trump's tariffs. And he's just getting started. That's amazing news. You won't hear that on mainstream media. They're not going to talk about it. But he's only 6 months into this presidency. And it takes a full 6 to 8 months after something like this happens to actually feel it. Can you imagine with this trajectory what it's going to be like in a year and a half, 2 years from now? This is amazing news. This is, wow. $26 billion surplus for the first time in just 6 months after 20 plus years.
After 20 plus years, but there is something, a major something, not just something, a major something that is holding us back from an explosion in the economy, and that is the Fed chair, Jerome Powell. He will not cut the rates. He will not cut the rates. All the other Western nations are cutting rates. This is what Ann Vandersteel was just talking about, the deep state, the endless war on Donald Trump, the endless war on America. The Federal Reserve, the same Federal Reserve that's building a $2.5 billion building for them in Washington, D.C. I'm going to repeat that. $2.5 billion. There are stadiums that hold 70 to 80,000 people that don't cost $2.5 billion. Watch this clip. This is from April. This is Trump talking about Jerome Powell in April, and then we'll talk about him today. Go ahead and play clip number 3, please, Thomas.
Federal Reserve Chairman, Mr. President, says that you would have to call him for a meeting. Do you plan to meet with him?
I could
and what
call
do you
him
think
for
about
a meeting, but it's like talking to a wall. He should be.
the Bank of England cut.
Well, the Bank of England cut, China cut, everybody's cutting but him. It's I don't know. We'll see what happens. It's a shame. I call him Too Late, Too Late Powell. That's his nickname, and it's a shame. It's ridiculous. So a meeting, he's always too late. If the chairman of the Fed, Jerome, if he would lower interest rates like China did, like I think UK did, but like numerous other countries have done, it's like jet fuel. It'd be great, but he doesn't want to do it. I think he doesn't want to do it. Probably he's not in love with me. I think that's right. It's sort of a crazy reason, but that's the way life is.
Jet fuel. Why? Maybe the bigger question is, why do we have a Federal Reserve? It has no attachment to the federal government. It's a bunch of bankers that run our monetary system. When did we, America and Americans, decide to allow bankers to run everything and print money out of thin air? Well, we did in 1913. No, we didn't do this at the founding of our country. Our founding fathers would never have approved this. No, this was a bunch of thieves got together with a bunch of thief politicians, and they screwed America. They destroyed America's economic system. Let's look at today. Let's listen to what Donald Trump says about Powell this week. This is clip 4.
I think he's doing a terrible job. I think we should be, I think we should be 3 points lower interest rate. He's costing our country a lot of money. We should be number 1, and we're not. And that's because of Jerome Powell. In terms of interest, we are number 1 in the world.
Donald Trump saying we should be 3 points down. 3 points. That would be an explosion never seen before in the history of the world. Donald Trump's going to just have to take matters into his own hands. And we're getting to that point. We're past the constitutional crisis. We just haven't acknowledged the fact that there's a tax on the executive branch. There's a tax on the legislative, and there's a tax on the judicial. There's a tax on the United States of America. Do we want to stay within the Constitution? Yeah, but there's things in the Constitution that allow him to act the way he needs to act. He's just going to have to do it. We have traitors inside our government. And yet, going on month 7, there's not one person arrested. Mayorkas opened the borders. 30 million people came in. Donald Trump is now changing that, has eradicated all of those policies because they were against the law. Then why has he not been arrested? Fair question. Fair question to Pam Bondi, the DOJ. Why has he not been arrested? I don't want to hear about that's going to set bad precedent. I don't care. You know what I do when I used to run a station and the way I live my life now? Is this the right thing to do? I don't think, is this the right thing to do? And oh my God, what's all the repercussions that are going to happen to me? No, this is the right thing we got to do. We just got to go do it. We just got to do it. We talk about POW. We talk about the economy. Well, if you want to talk about the economy, you need to talk about big box stores. You got to talk about the big box stores partnering with BLM, partner with defund the police, partner with putting poisons in your food, metals in your lotions, on and on and on. How do you take your power back, as Kim Yater says? Well, you take it back. One way you take it back is your purchasing power. Stop going to the big box stores and giving them your money, and they take their profits and they give it to the Walden heiress, who then funds NoKings.org, the riots that stormed through America. Stop. Why don't you go to a store, a company in America, made in America by Americans, for products that are, quote, green, no metals, no plastics, no hormones, no mRNA in their food, no nothing. Products made in America by Americans and shipped to you for less cost than the box stores. So I'm not asking you to go spend more money. I'm just asking you to take your money that you put on the box stores and go to this company, and you save money. And you're not killing yourself. I think that's a win-win. So how do we do that? You go to patriotsmade.com/JJ, patriotsmade.com/JJ. It's there on the screen. Vote with your dollars, buy American. I believe in that. For years, I wanted something like this, because I was going to the box stores, giving my money, seeing them hate me, be adamantly 180 degrees opposed to everything I believe, and I'm frequenting their stores or buying their products. Now I have an alternative. My family gets the things that we desperately need, or need just to live, need to clean our house, power bars that I eat as I go through the day that are healthy, nutritious. They don't taste like chalk. They're actually great. How do we do that? How did my family do it? We do it through Patriots Made. patriotsmade.com/JJ. Show's almost over. Look into my clock, my beautiful clock, as Donald Trump. Big, beautiful clock on my left. You see, I got a minute left. I share Ann Vandersteel's frustration. We talk throughout the week, texting each other, send each other articles, and it's there's a feeling of exasperation, meaning there are times when I'm going to bed and I say, don't look at your phone, don't look at your phone. And I go, okay, my wife is just getting out of the shower. I got 5 minutes before we go to bed. Let me just scroll and see if there's something I'm missing. And I start scrolling and I'm just like, dear, holy cow, this is like an hour ago. Everything's changed. Or I can't believe this is being revealed. We're being attacked on all fronts. And I believe strongly, and people that have watched my show, regulars know, or read my articles, you guys know that I believe this is God versus Satan. There is no other explanation. Sexual perversion, greed, corruption, lies, thieves, adultery, everything you can imagine. We're in a war. Be prepared, America. You're going to be called off the bench and you're going to need to fight.
Welcome to Technocracy News with your host, Patrick Wood. I'm your co-host, Logan House.